years on the same charges that have there's zero direct evidence that they ever hit a punch or touched a police officer, but on the same charges on January 6th, they were locked up all the way through Trump's pardon. So it was effectively 5 years of pure law. People from her district, same federal charges, same judges even.
Yes.
And so everyone's here screaming, now it's about the law. Okay, fine, prove it.
Right. Yeah. That former two-tier system of justice that we had is now a one-tier system of justice, and it's moving in the right direction.
What about the rest of the What about Republican leadership? This is an audience that is, we're not haters, okay? We just want the system. We want things to work. We really want some confirmation of President Johnson. And it's like the landslide victory, like in 17 states.
Yeah.
I think here, like if the Republicans don't accept the president, I think that it's going to make a very much a golden era. I think we're looking at like 12 or 20 years, maybe 100 years of like MAGA leadership in this country.
Yeah.
The Republicans need to get off their ass and codify the agenda. Republican leadership seems like this is a good step in the right direction. What's next? A Doge bill? Executive order bills? Like codifying executive orders for the president?
I think a lot of us would like to see some of the savings that were identified in Doge actually codified in this reconciliation bill.
Do you remember the Doge talks? I don't know.
Yes. I am. But it's all over the down. I mean, like we get serious deficit issues. This particular bill, it doesn't exacerbate that or those, but it doesn't really make them better. I mean, you got to think, right? We're saving in this reconciliation package. We're going to save $1.6 trillion over the next 10-year budgetary window. We're going to spend $87 trillion in the next 10 years. And so when you take a look at the total savings, you're going to save. You're going to spend $87 trillion. We're saving $1.6 trillion of that. Like all we're doing is we're taking the deficit curve more just like a tiny bit. I mean, just like the ever so slightest. I mean, honestly, if Congress was not able to get this type of savings across the board, I probably would have left because it's like we're never going to be able to do it. There's no hope whatsoever. And I think that because we at least have something that is going to achieve some modicum of savings, I think it's going to shave off about $120 billion in the first year from the deficit. Now our deficit's $1.8 trillion. So take that down to 165, 17, right? Again, just kind of a little tiny blip. It's better than nothing, and it's better than what Congress has done in the past. And so we still have a lot of work to do because we could borrow so much more money than we're putting in over even just the next 5 years, let alone this year, let alone 10-year budgetary window. We have not made demonstrable progress in fixing that. Now, what we have done is we have codified some really good policies, and certainly it's the Senate right now. And those policies should create a pro-growth environment that allows small businesses, middle class, and really every single taxpayer to be successful and take more than they can get into their pocket, invest in the way that they want to invest in their wealth and their American dream. And that will have an impact down the road on our revenues because it will increase revenues. We saw that from the 2017 TCJA. This is great policy, and that's awesome, but the policy kind of neutral on debt, right? Not a huge move in the right direction on debt, so we've got to be cognizant of that. We've got to deal with it.
In conclusion, Congressman, he's got to be like really happy about what's happening in the American military right now.
Yeah.
This is something that's near and dear to your heart.
Yes, it is.
And it's
absolutely.
If you don't have good, and strong and fit men and women signing up for the American military, and we're going to have a tough road in this country. So talk me through changes. I don't know how closely you're working with the HECSF, but I assume relatively closely.
Yes.
One of the members of Congress is still probably push-up.
And a pull-up.
Yeah. Okay. We already have recommendations in the chat saying, like, well, Virgin was talking about going to the gym with MTG, so the chat now wants us to go do that. So
you guys got to see Virgin in the gym. I mean, like, the guy is about this thing, right? I mean, he's just, it's great. He's in there every day. He is in there every single day.
That's fighting words from Virgin's text.
campaigned on in order to become the selector, the selection 100% and he's effectuated that change. I mean, there was a cultural rot in the military that I saw as I started to leave. So I left the Special Forces in 2016. One of the last things that I had to do was give my team transgender awareness training.
No.
It started to creep in
Really?
right then. Yeah, I didn't do it, but I checked the box and I said that we did. But I mean, that was happening in the Special Forces at the end of the Obama administration in 2016, right? And what I saw when I came into Congress in 2025.
In the Special Forces?
Oh yeah, 100%. It's there. It was there, and like they don't go along with it, but it was there. It was being infused into it as I was leaving service. And when I came back in 2025 and now started getting involved in the military, it's basically like 8 years of separation. End of 16, beginning of 25, 8 years of that. What I saw talking to our senior leaders was nothing short of absolute cultural. I mean, giving speeches that have land acknowledgments in them, referring to servicemen and servicewomen as service persons, right? That's a very specific term. And when someone says that, when a general gets up and they say that in public, that is a very, very intentional term. And it tells you everything you need to know about what's going on in their brain and in their heart. And we have to root that out of the military. It's got to go away because that would cost American blood. And reality actually sets in, and we have to deal with some very difficult decisions that are prioritized by a DEI
So hold on. I know the audience, I know the chat knows the late acknowledgements, but I just want to set the table here. You're telling me that American military generals would get up and say, I'm speaking here on land that was once the Chama tribe.
I witnessed it personally after coming into office.
The same American military that fought to gain that land and gain and spill blood, quite famously, all across the nation in order to secure that land.
Yes.
And they're sitting there now kneeling before the same conquered tribes
Yes.
as American military friends.
Yes.
That is sickening. What that is disgusting. Would they go to Germany and like kneel before like Nazi high command, or like go to Imperial Japan and like surrender? That's just like
So
they
that's-
effectively surrendering the British in Yorktown.
Yes.
So they go to Yorktown and be like, this was once a British base, okay? We want to like acknowledge, the general Cornwallis.
Yeah.
We want to acknowledge Cornwallis was here. That's what they're doing.
Yes.
Oh,
You're exactly right. And to give you kind of the perspective on what type of people this has, right? When you say kneeling down, and when you say surrendering, I was in Copenhagen a couple weeks ago on a defense trip because we are working very heavily on the Armed Services Committee to make sure that our European allies are paying their fair share for their own needs. Like, we don't care more about their defense than they do, right? And happy to report that a lot of European countries are actually stepping up. They're significantly increasing their defense spending. But we're with the Prime Minister of Denmark and the Secretary of State, equivalent of the Minister of Defense, all these very senior level folks were talking. And one of our delegation asked, he said, this is such a beautiful city. How did you preserve the history through World War II? How did Copenhagen survive? And I will not say who said it, because it would be an international problem, right? But they said, oh, that's easy, you surrendered. And you've got to understand, like, this is the mentality we have to root out of our military. Like, it has no place
That was
in
another
America.
person said that, or-
No. That was a very senior foreign couple.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hired.
It's scary, right, when you have that, because you got to understand this. The military, you go through it, and you're like, man, this is not free the second a bullet snaps right past your head. It's not free at all, and those decisions become very real. The consequences become very real, and there is no substitute for victory at that point in time. If we have people that morally equivocate on what our values ought to be, what we should stand for in this country, we're going to lose the.
Crazy.
Yeah.
watched it from a very different, crazy.
Yeah.
Watched it from a very different sense than I do. Watched it from a very different sense than I do. But I think, and you watched the Taliban swoop in, and you watched everything collapse and you saw the helicopters. You know, it's amazing how they buried that footage. You saw the helicopters. You know, it's amazing how they buried that footage. You saw the helicopters taken off from the U.S. Embassy, and there was this cloud of darkness where it's like something horrible is about to happen. It's so
around the world through that exile. No, it's totally, I just
kind of felt it.
like I haven't slept for the last 36 hours. I didn't sleep for almost 4 days when Afghanistan fell because it was so, I knew what it did to my kids' generation. And so we have to set the conditions for us to win the next conflict. And look, up here, my charter, if I could do two things, number one would be don't fight wars we shouldn't fight. It's incredibly important. But we have to absolutely set the conditions to win the ones. We have to fight. And what we have to understand is because we've been so weak for so long that we have ceded the choice of whether we enter conflict to our enemies. We are so used in this country to choosing whether we get into a fight or not. And I think that we've been so weak for so long that we no longer are in control of that decision. We have to be prepared to fight. And the way to win the next conflict is actually to not fight it because we properly set the conditions to win it and we properly deter it. That's what we have to do. We absolutely have to fundamentally transform our military. And I think we've actually done that through the reconciliation process. The $150 billion of additional defense spending that we have is, yes, largely very good spending. Largely, not perfect, not I'm a freshman here, but from a government perspective, it's largely very good. What I'm now concerned about is the $850 billion baseline that we absolutely have to go through and reinvest into technologies that will actually help us deter and defeat China. Because if we're being honest, what we've been investing in has not helped us win the last 30 years before. And we've got to be sober-minded about that.
It's pretty clear in Ukraine, right, which is like a straight-up proxy war by the CIA, and it's not gone well. Like with this audience, what we want is peace.
Yes.
Like with this audience, we don't want stupid. Like the reason why we hate these wars in the Middle East, in Gaza, in Ukraine, is that it has these are the sparks that turn into raging fires that pull us in. It's not just our treasure and our treasury, which is hundreds of billions of dollars, but it's also, of course, our greatest treasure, which is our people. Get put in the dirt for other countries, and we're sick of it. It's an entire generation that's just sick of that.
And even more so than that, you have an entire generation of veterans that are just broken.
Yes,
right. Because and it's like, look, if you want to really, please understand this. And I know we're all on the same side here, but if you want to help veterans, don't fight wars we shouldn't fight. Absolutely, let them do the ones that do it. That's it.
Yeah. That's an entire generation walking through, and then like having smart defense. Letting Elon, letting some of these kick-ass companies, some of these AI companies build some really scary shit.
Yes.
And letting it rip, which is like the best deterrence, right? It's like.
And that's what we're doing, right? So we're working a systematic process now on the House Armed Services Committee. We've got the $150 billion of good spend. Now we got the $850 billion. Half of that is payroll. So that's just off the top. That's going to our soldiers. Now we've got to focus our Army, our Navy, our Marine Corps, our Air Force on making sure that we're investing in assets that are actually relevant to deterring and defeating China. We've got to get rid of all these parochialisms that we have. And I've been calling and trying to educate all of my compadres up here in Congress that, look, just because it's in your district doesn't mean it's actually relevant to deterring or defeating China. And we've got to be very clear-minded about this because we owe the American soldier, sailor, airman, and Marine the very best technology because that's what China is providing to their troops. And if we want to not fight this war, if we really want to win it, we've got to be able to deter it. And if we fail to deter it, we're going to fight it. And the good news is that the same pathway by which we deter it is actually the same pathway by which we win it. So we're moving in the right direction right now, and I'm very pleased about that.
Final dorky question.
Yeah.
Do we need aircraft carriers anymore?
So The answer
It's
is
like a big raging debate on the internet right now. Like, do we actually, aircraft carriers with powerful weapons for the last 50 years?
yes.
Do we need that?
There is a lot of wisdom and understanding that are a great source of pride, and they have been a great source of security for us as a nation, as a populace that looks at our aircraft carriers and our sailors standing and saluting as they're coming in through the bay or going out to sea, that is our ability to project force around the world. That is our ability to secure the United States of America from threats abroad. It has been one of our most incredible assets. But as we've learned from the Ukrainian conflict, where the Ukrainian military without a navy has sunk half of Russia's Black Sea naval fleet without a single ship of their own, you have to understand that in current circumstances, with the proliferation of relatively inexpensive yet very capable technologies, that some of these great, incredibly expensive and exquisite assets that we have are in some ways becoming actual strategic liabilities. And so the answer is, yes, we still need them. I don't know how many more we need to produce. And the reality is there's tactics and techniques and procedures of how we can use them and keep them safe, and still use them to project force in the next conflict. But how relevant those are 20 or 30 years from now, which is the service life of a carrier, now you're pushing out to 40, I think is an honest question that we have to really analyze here before investing too much more.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, everyone's like, China can make a lot of aircraft carriers. I was like, well, yeah, but like they could be smoked like very quickly, from under the water, from above the water,
Yes.
from top of the water.
And look, we have to have a seafaring capability. There's no question about that. But when we try to overcome the tonnage deficit that everybody knows about that exists with China, even amongst the sum of all of our ally base, there's a still significant tonnage gap. There is some wisdom in saying, well, we might be better off investing in technologies that deny their use and their capabilities as opposed to continuing to invest in trying to catch up with our capability gap, just figure out ways to eliminate it.
You're talking about aircraft carriers. It's like,
What's up?
we got Myron Donald.
How are you? Actually, really great meeting you. Thanks. This is awesome.
What's up, you guys? We got Myron Donald.
Can you stay in your own fucking lane, dude? Jesus Christ.
Yo.
We love Timmy B. Timmy B in America. This is the guy.
Florida. Congratulations, man. I know you're fighting hard for this bill. You're going on TV. You're letting her rip. You're throwing some elbows.
Not so much. You know, you don't want to hurt people.
Yeah.
You don't want to hurt people. You know, it's professional environment. Professional.
You said,
No.
You said Kevin McCarthy in that movie. Lineman. You're not gonna move it.
I mean, you're not really going to move. But I mean, I just think that when you're doing this type of legislation, where it's high stakes, everything's going into a package. There's pieces that are flying all over the place. You just want to make sure that, you know, people are at least getting a good chunk of what they're looking for, and you try to get it done.
It's a massive victory.
Oh, for
Yeah.
fuck's sake.
This is a big victory. Like,
Yes.
people should be happy with this. There's no such thing as a perfect bill. People should be happy about this. Name the top three, top line three, big, happy.
I'm not a phone service.
Permanency in Donald Trump's tax policy, which even the Democrats, as much as they campaigned against, and as much as they talked crap about, saying it was tax cuts for the rich, when Nancy Pelosi was Speaker of the House and the auto pen was running the executive branch, they didn't get rid of it. They kept that tax policy. And so they could say whatever they want, but they kept it in place because it's the best tax policy the country's ever had. We've now made that permanent. No tax on tips, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. That stuff's all in
You can
here.
tax ticks as much as you want.
Listen, man, it's been an interesting 36 hours. So,
Yeah, right.
bear with me. Bear
You've been
with me.
awake for 36 hours?
I've been awake for 36 hours.
So we have to do
A
that.
lot of coffee. You need coffee?
Actually,
You
I had a
stand?
half.
I think
No,
there's a couple cans in here.
I had a half a Celsius,
Okay.
and I did have some tequila around 3 a.m. And that's just America. Look, I keep it straight. This is what we do. But no, we secured.
That was
we
a
had-
rap horn. That's a rap horn line. Okay. There we go.
Thank you. We actually built border wall. That's great stuff. We get the money to Tom Homan.
It's the most
and
money for the
Christy
border
Nunn.
ever.
Yes. We get money to Tom and Christy to actually begin the largest repatriation force in American history, modernizing DOD, energy stuff. I mean, there's a lot of great things in this package. The stuff we did around Medicaid is a start, and I think that that's where some of the last minute negotiations were around, was how do we make sure that the non-expansion states like Tennessee, like Texas, Wisconsin, Florida, don't get forced down this inertia to expand.
Yeah.
There was some good work done on that in the 11th hour of this bill. So nothing's perfect, but in terms of all the things that got through, it's far better than anything the Democrats ever did in this town.
That's right.
Not even close.
Okay, so this is codifying President Trump's agenda, big victories.
Yeah.
Talk to me about this, and I know it's getting into the weeds a little bit, and some people gloss over it, but as the next governor of Florida, what does this SALT expansion mean? Like, what does it mean from a state level? The critics are saying that this could mean, major they could really raid tax revenues for left-wing causes. It could really, this could really be major bailouts for California, New York, and states. But how does that work from a state level?
What it means is that your state has a tax burden essentially to federal taxes. So the federal government does subsidize the payment of high and local state taxes and local taxes. So Chicago, Illinois, New York City, Los Angeles, they benefit tremendously out of this because their city taxes, their state taxes, essentially come off the number that people owe in their federal income taxes. So that's the downside of it. I think if you're dealing with other states where I think depending on the reading, if you have higher property taxes, i.e. some parts of Florida, there might be an ability to use the SALT deduction for that. But we'll see how that fully gets vetted out once the bill actually gets signed into law and what they do over at IRS when they write all the regulations around it. But yes, it is largely a bailout for blue states, something that I did not want. The blue states need to fix their problems, not come here and look for subsidies.
How does that get in there? What's the battle there? And then can you talk about Trump stepping in? This doesn't happen without Trump.
Look, I mean, how it happens is you have about, we have 220 votes in Congress. So you have enough members out of New York and California who say this is going to be my late diet. So you stick there around and do shit that can give them a deal. And that's basically what happens. At the end of the day, all deals are cut when you got leverage. And you needed their votes to get everything else done. So you had to cut them out of this.
What's next? Is it Doge cuts? What's next? Codifying
Yeah,
executive orders?
the
Like, what's going on?
Doge stuff, the rescission package, in my view, that's gotta hit the floor. We have to see that package. Let the Senate get the big beautiful bill to the president's desk. The rescission package needs to be the next thing. After that, we do need to look at, we're gonna have to do some farm bill stuff. Appropriations is coming. And I think we're gonna have to start taking a look at FISA again. That comes up again next year. So that stuff's gonna start coming into play. But yeah, monumental lift, a lot of people had their hands in this. I know victory laps are being taken this morning, but I can't tell you, man, whether it's, Main Street, Freedom Caucus, House leadership, White House team, president, a lot of hands went into the business.
So hands, laying on hands. LaMonica MacGyver. She ever give you a 400 shiver? She ever push you around in the halls?
Nah.
LaMonica MacGyver, she ever violent towards you?
No.
She ever shoved you or anything? Pushing an elevator? Shoving a locker? We've seen it on tape. We've seen it. It's
No.
possible.
Come on, man. They're not doing that. That's not happening.
What's going to happen with that? A lot of people are saying